Together we'll see who dies and survives, circled around a sacred fire, strumming along with our favorite lyre. Adventure called the quest awaits, your destiny's in the hands of the fates. But never fear, we're all friends here, we'll have your back when danger's near. Come with us through the pages as we unravel a tale for the ages into the Percy-Verse.
Hello and welcome to the Percy-Verse podcast. I'm Alisa.
And I'm Anna. Grab your fish pony and dive in because today we're reading Chapter 8, We Board the Princess Andromeda. In this chapter, Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson get on a mysterious cruise ship. Grover is nearing his deadline, and Percy's nemesis is finally on the scene.
Grab those fish ponies.
Dun, dun, dun. Fish ponies.
Also, there's good wordplay in Grover's nearing his deadline.
Ooh, I like it. I like it.
Being eaten, dead.
I like that. Let's pretend that was intentional. Also, in the section on Grover, there is another fun wordplay that I'm not sure was intentional. So we'll get there as well.
Okay, something to look forward to. This is another one though where we kind of like the chapter title. It's funny. It's like just a very straightforward. It's We Board the Princess Andromeda, and it's just kind of like that is what happens. They board the ship.
Yes.
In this chapter.
Primarily main plot point that occurs.
Yeah.
We don't usually get that.
No. But we meet Annabeth, Tyson, and Percy on the beach. Annabeth and Tyson have run up because they heard Percy yelling, which he wasn't, but Hermes obviously did a little magic.
Made it. Yeah. So they thought.
Yes. And after Percy kind of breaking down what happened to both of them, Annabeth is basically like, all right, then we gotta go. Yep. You never say no to a god, basically, so we gotta go on this. And there's a kind of funny moment where Percy is reminding Annabeth but you promised Chiron, and Annabeth says, well, I promised to keep you from danger, so I can only do that if I come with you. Right. I won't be keeping that oath if I don't join you on this quest.
I do think that Annabeth not only is we can't refuse a god from doing something, but when I was reading her saying, Percy, we have to do the quest, part of me was going back to our conversation about them at the fire and how much they want to do the quest. And I think it's they're already predisposed to want to do the thing. And now Hermes is encouraging what their instincts and desires were already saying. And so she's like, well, I guess if a god says it, we have to do the thing that I really want us to do.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was kind of funny.
No, I think you're right about that. That it's the permission that they were desiring to receive that they didn't receive via Tantalus, they received via Hermes, and so Annabeth is like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
But we then get into this section of debate over whether Tyson should come or not.
I'm so tired of the same conversation happening in this book. I was a little annoyed at Annabeth and Percy, but I was mostly just tired. I was like, can we get past this same over and over again? Annabeth doesn't want to be near Tyson. Percy is embarrassed of Tyson. They don't want to go places with Tyson. They end up doing it anyway. He's obviously going to be super helpful. And he's also very young, and both can be true. And I'm just I'm tired.
I know. I also felt tired. I still have some of that anger and frustration living inside of me, but I did reach a point where I was kind of okay, we have circled the same loop for the 100th time now, Percy and Annabeth. But okay, come on.
New answers.
Yeah.
New answers.
But to basically summarize what happens here, Tyson expresses that he wants to go. Annabeth immediately gets panicky, and Percy for the umpteenth time is going, there's something she's not telling me. I wonder what it could be. And of course, you know, it's a classic thing in all, you know, media, books, movies, TV shows, what have you, where it's like, if you just communicated, if you just asked Annabeth, hey, you get a
Yep.
little weird or off. What's up with that, dude? You're my friend. Hey, what's up?
Yeah. Or if
Then
Annabeth was just like, hey, thing that happened, that is
right.
reason.
Traumatic experience, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, they're like, what?
Traumatic experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and like 13, you know,
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Assuming they both had their birthdays since the last book.
Right.
Which I'm not good enough at keeping track of the months of when these are occurring. And I actually don't know when either of their birthdays are, canonically, to know if they have passed.
I know that somewhere in my brain, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah. And then Percy goes into the same emotional place of like, he doesn't want Tyson to come because he's embarrassed, and he basically like wants a break. He wants a breather from Tyson, from having to like sit in all of those feelings that are constantly coming up because Tyson exists and is there and is his brother, and just by existing is a reminder that, hey, I'm your brother and you don't like that.
Yeah.
And then we also have Percy on this very familiar train of thought of him thinking that he will be the one to have to protect Tyson, and viewing Tyson as this like burden in that sense, and he literally says that he, referring to Tyson, get us all killed. Yeah. Which I did just have to write in my own personal notes how wild that was. Yeah. Because Tyson has saved Percy's life twice now.
Yeah,
Percy would not be alive.
Come on.
Twice now.
What are you talking about?
So a very frustratingly familiar kind of internal like little moment that Percy has. But then he lands with, Percy says that they can't leave them because basically he'll face the wrath of Tantalus's punishment. Yes. Annabeth, we see her at her most, I think, like, distressed because she is trying to keep her cool, is trying to communicate, and we read that she's trying to spell out Cyclops, and she can't. Yes. Like, she says S-I-K, C-Y-K, and she gets too flustered that she, like, can't get the word out, and we get this reminder
plus
of,
the
like...
dyslexia. Yeah.
Exactly. That's that coming in, and the more kind of... activated she gets, like the harder the more kind of the dyslexia comes in, almost it feels like
on there.
Yes.
And I think that this is the only part in the conversation that I think is a valid point of discussion, which is that Polyphemus is a Cyclops, which is what she's trying to say, and I think she's trying to, like, if she treated Tyson as an equal, she would say, hey Tyson, one of the guys that we're going up against is also a Cyclops. How would you feel about battling another Cyclops? Is that something you would feel comfortable doing? Like, we need to know that before we all go together on this quest that involves rescuing our friend from him, which could involve harming him in some way.
Yeah. Right.
Obviously not what she's doing here. She's trying to, like, circumvent like you would with a small kid by spelling it out to Percy. But I think it's the only part of this conversation that might actually be a good discussion to have as like informed consent, because Tyson doesn't necessarily, as far as we know this going into it.
Right, exactly. Because, like, if Tyson is like, oh no, that's okay, like, I don't mind, Tyson could, which we will see that he does, like, it is useful to have a Cyclops be able to just talk to another Cyclops, and like they're like, that's a great like distraction, that's a great like, hey Tyson, you take, you know, his attention while we try to like sneak around this way or what have you, like. But yeah, neither of them, their concerns are not coming from a place of how would you feel as a Cyclops about going on a quest where we might have to potentially in some way harm another Cyclops. Like, that's not on either of their minds. I think Annabeth's concern is almost this kind of like monster, like to me this is always read as like Annabeth is maybe concerned about Tyson like not being on their side, because totally. Like in meeting another Cyclops maybe he like switches sides or something like that.
Yeah,
like to me that's always how I've read this piece of it. And the one thing that I did want to make note of, because it stood out to me this time, was in Percy's like inner monologue about all of this. He refers to Tyson as strong, but also a little kid in Cyclops terms, maybe 7 or 8 years old mentally. And that was the first time I think we got such a specific age. And my mind immediately went to the fact that Annabeth was 7 when she ran away from home, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah, she was. And Percy knows that,
When that story is told, it's like, yes, Annabeth is really young and she needed to meet up with people, but she still, like, ran away on her own and survived long enough on her own. It's not portrayed as like, oh, Annabeth, this incompetent,
was
weak,
like helpless. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And just that really stood out to me because I'm just like, well, when you tell that story of a demigod of that exact same age, like Annabeth was not this incompetent, unable to do anything to defend
getting
herself.
Everyone killed idea. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so that just really stood out to me.
Yeah. And Percy knows that Tyson has been living on his own for a really long time on top of
and
that.
Surviving. Yes. And like has the scars on his back that Percy has never asked him about, which clearly indicate that he has survived something big to have those. And so, it was another moment where it just felt like that is being used as a reason to like somehow prove that Tyson is incapable when it's
not bring him.
not. And all Tyson has done is actually prove how capable he is. And yet that is not enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this paragraph, if this were the only thing Percy ever said in Reservations about Tyson going with him somewhere, I would be like, valid. Like, yes, Tyson is strong and has proven himself. And would you... Like, Annabeth didn't really have a choice in that moment, and Talia and Luke didn't either. Would you choose to knowingly bring a 7 or 8 year old on a dangerous quest? Probably not, you know?
Right.
Now, is that quite the same in terms of, like, capability as a human, in terms of a Cyclops? No. Like, that's not necessarily the same. But if that was the only thing that Percy said that was, like, about not taking Tyson somewhere, I would say that's valid and thoughtful, you know, to, like... say he's strong and developmentally he might be 7 or 8 years old, if that's accurate, right? Here we're kind of assuming that Percy is accurately stating this. But I just think taken with everything else that we've read so far and talked about so far, it's like you're saying, it really is just like more of the same. But I do think it's worth, you know, even later when Tyson doesn't want to get off Rainbow and things, I think it's like there are ways in which he is very childlike, and that's not necessarily a problem, but it is true. And you do want to like be mindful when you're older and you have someone younger with you that you're not putting them in harm's way. I just think it's not a 1-to-1, and the issue is more the way that like Percy has talked about him otherwise.
Absolutely. And it just brings you back to, we've many times made the like Grover Tyson comparison in terms of like they are both these like beings who age at different rates than humans do, and so like developmentally like they are lived for years longer but are like you don't follow the same developmental paths that demigods in this world do. And it's just interesting to me because like Grover didn't believe in himself, and Percy did have a little bit of that like, oh, I do feel like protective of him,
definitely,
you know, like that was absolutely
like that there. Grover was more helpless.
Yes, but when selecting his team, he wasn't like, oh no, Grover's like too young to come with me, you know, and you know, and Percy even saying these things like he's 7 or 8 is like Percy doesn't know enough about the mythological world or about the developmental cycles of a Cyclops to be, you know, estimating that himself. I think he's just he's like we've discussed got all of his like biases kind of up. And
this
active.
Is making me think of the concept in social work of like cultural competency or cultural humility.
Yes.
And I'm imagining like being a social worker in the Percy Jackson universe and like how you would really need to understand like satyr development versus
Yeah.
cyclops development versus demigod development, like human development, and that person would be the one who could let us know like
Yes.
what's going on with Tyson, what's going on with Grover, like how do you what are some of the different stages that they go through. It'll be interesting actually, I think, to watch Tyson throughout the series and maybe like notice some of the ways in which he changes over time. But yeah, I feel like we need that person who understands like all the development of all these different types of beings in this world, because that's the whole concept, is like it's hard from your own perspective to understand someone else's culture or development sometimes if that's not your own experience.
Yeah, absolutely. But what Percy does end up saying is that Tyson can go if he wants to. And I do think that is a moment that does feel like a step in a new direction for Percy, for him to go, it's up to Tyson. If he wants to go, he'll come. Like, he's still, Percy is still issuing that as like, I have decided that Tyson can decide. But that does feel like a step of difference, because even when it came from leaving school and getting the cab to like go to Camp Half-Blood, Percy was like, we can't leave him, he can't live on his own, like he's got to come with us. Percy was kind of like, Tyson had
making
no
decisions
say in that.
for him. This is the first time Percy's acknowledging some amount of agency for Tyson.
Yes. And Tyson, of course, is enthusiastically excited to go. Annabeth hates this, but they have like basically a time crunch happening here, and I think Annabeth kind of like does the calculation of like, okay, this isn't a battle I can win, I'm just gonna have to like move on. And then one thing that I found was really interesting was, so they then moved to, okay, Hermes said your dad would help, ask your dad for help. Percy doesn't make a sacrifice. He just asks Poseidon for help. Normally, I feel like there's some sort of like, Percy puts something into the water, like he throws some cokes or he does something.
Right.
Like
I guess when he's falling from the monument.
Yes, he just asks. Yeah. But in this moment, I don't know, I just found it interesting because I'm like, he, like, just those distinctions of like when a sacrifice is needed versus when it's not. Feels a touch arbitrary in this instance, because I'm like, yes, the harpies are on their way, but also they could swim for a bit in the ocean if they needed to. You know, he's not like Percy falling to his death from the arch. Like,
it
levels
could just
of
be that
urgency.
because Hermes is the one who says he can, that just makes it, opens the pathway, and he doesn't have to do something special to call his attention.
Yeah. But I just found that interesting because I do remember that in previous times when Percy asks his dad for help on quests and stuff, he'll like give something to him. But help very quickly appears in the form of 3 white stallion fish ponies, or as they're actually known, hippocampi. But fish ponies. Beautiful, beautiful fish ponies, where the front half is a horse and their back halves are silvery fish bodies with glistening scales and rainbow tail fins. Pretty. So these are quite beautiful. It's like a white stallion turns into a silvery fish, and then the end is like some lovely rainbows.
I love it. And even Annabeth in this moment is like, wow, like these are beautiful creatures. It's kind of like the hippocampi are the great uniters between Tyson and Annabeth. Yes. They both really appreciate them.
And then the harpies are extraordinarily close. We can hear them threatening snack time for themselves in the form of these 3 kids.
Snack time for lucky harpies.
Yes. And Percy's like, grab yourself, go, we don't attack.
Into the water.
And so everyone gets on, and Percy does note that Poseidon must have known that Tyson was along for the ride, because there's one hippocampus that is larger than the others, just right for carrying a cyclops.
Adorable.
So Poseidon thought about both of his sons. Yes.
I wonder how Percy feels about that.
And then they're off, and
Yeah.
it's funny. I was like, the verb that they use is that the hippocampi are racing over the water at the speed of jet skis. But I'm like, are they galloping? Are they swimming? Are they swim galloping? I just like, I kind of want to know. And also I want to see like an animation of like, what does it
What
look
that
like?
looks like. Yeah.
When the front
When
half
Percy
is
even says giddy up, like when he tells them to go forward, which is more horse-like, but then their tails must be... Yeah, I don't know. I also, as I was, I have some questions about the three of their experiences as we go through here.
Yes.
And we can start with my first question, which is, and generally speaking, it's like, is Tyson experiencing what Percy is? So I was thinking about being Annabeth on this ride and how I'd be getting wet. Because Percy doesn't usually get wet when he goes in the water. But like at least their bottom halves have to be, like their legs have to be in the water. And... because, like, the tail for the hippocampus is going to be swimming. And then the spray of the water is going to be hitting them because water has a lot of movement and they're moving through water. So
and at the speed of a jet ski, which is fast.
Totally. But I've been in a jet ski and you get water on you. So, like, Annabeth is getting wet. I'm assuming Percy is not getting wet. Question is Tyson getting wet? That's one of my questions.
Right.
And in general, as we're going through, I'm just curious... Like, Percy says that they zipped along with the wind in their faces and speeding through the waves so smooth and steady that he hardly needed to hold on at all. And when I read that, I was like, is that because a son of Poseidon? Or is that just how the hippocampi travel? And if it is that it's easier for him because he's a son of Poseidon, then is it also easier for Tyson? Which Tyson is having the best time, so maybe that's true.
Yeah, he's having a blast.
But then I just want to know, like, what this ride was like for Annabeth. That's all I want to know. Because I feel like maybe it's easier if you're, you know, a kid of Poseidon to just be, like, grooving along with this experience.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I also, since first being introduced to these mythological beings, they have been like a conundrum for my mind to imagine. Like, to fully be like I have the pieces and I'm fitting the pieces together.
Right.
But it is a very strange puzzle. Like, it is a very odd puzzle. And
True.
I just... like would love, because I also was like, okay, are we talking about the front half of like a fully grown horse with then an equally large, like, I just really want to know what the proportions are in terms of like how big is the horse, and then proportionally the horse to fish tail ratio, you know, like what are we working with there, and how much of the horse, you know,
seems like half and half. You know?
Right, but I'm like, maybe, like, do you get, like, the full back? Like, are they maybe actually sitting on the full back of a horse, and it's kind of, like, hind legs onwards is fishtail? Or, you know, because to your point of, like, how are they holding on? And, because I've always envisioned them they're sitting on the horse portion. Like, there's enough of the back of a horse that they're sitting on the horse portion.
I've kind of imagined that it's really seamless, and so... They might be sitting on all horse or like half horse, half fish, you know, depending.
Sure. Those are very different textures to like.
They are.
Stay on without a saddle or something to help you out. And also just the dynamics, like the physics, like how how it works for it to be such a smooth ride. I'm like, what are all of what's moving where to make the forward motion happen?
I don't have the answers for you. I don't. I really don't.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yes.
Magic.
And so then they arrive at the very, very, very large cruise ship. And I do have to say, reading all of these books so slowly, my brain really, I start to realize the particular words that I kind of skipped over. Like my kind of whole realization that there's like snow in Mount Olympus. I had like a whole moment of like, I've never added snow to that picture in my brain. I really processed that it's a cruise ship. And then it really dawned on me, because I've always imagined like a large ship, but hearing cruise ship, I was like, oh, that's huge. Right,
Yes.
that's why it's huge. Like that, and just that really processed
Yeah.
in my brain
Yeah.
for the first time
In
that it's
Seattle,
cruise ship.
there are a lot of cruise ships, and it really is hard to take in the scale of a cruise ship.
Yeah.
They are very big. They're not like a floating city, but when they say here that it's like a building in Manhattan, you know,
Yeah.
the scale of them is quite astounding. And this one says that the hull was at least 10 stories tall, so you can get that for a sense of scale, with another dozen levels of decks with brightly lit balconies and portholes. And then we see that the ship is named the Princess Andromeda, which is name of the chapter. And
Yes.
this is another chapter where we also get the Greek mythology told to us. This book is doing that, I feel
Yes.
like, a lot more than The Lightning Thief. You know, like we're getting
Yeah.
the characters themselves are like telling us about it. And I guess this was
Well,
on the test.
yes, and I do feel like it's like as we get kind of deeper, I feel like book one was like, apart from maybe satyrs, it's more, I felt like it was more top level of like, if you have Greek mythology knowledge as a
Yeah.
child, you're probably familiar, but now it's like, okay, book two, like maybe not everybody knows who Andromeda was and what her
Right.
story is,
Or
you know, like
Tantalus or
yeah, I feel like we're starting to get into those. And then as we get deeper and deeper into the series, Rick Riordan's pulling out, like, you never knew about this. Like, unless you are a classics major who
Right.
like studied and specialized in like
Exactly.
ancient Greece.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So here we have quite. I think the other thing about Sea of Monsters is from the beginning and throughout this first section, we're really getting some dark themes. I think the book is
Yeah.
tonally a lot darker than The Lightning Thief already.
I agree. I agree.
And here on the Princess Andromeda and imagining the scale, I think so. I had always imagined this as a cruise ship, but
Okay.
I don't think that I had what was different for me this time was imagining the scale of this masthead on a cruise ship.
Totally.
Because
Yeah.
because the cruise ship I got, but I think that like I hadn't quite imagined her that big, and then I think it makes it even more alarming what you
Yeah.
read about.
Yes.
But there's a huge masthead. This is a 3-story tall woman, so
Huge.
take that in. She's wearing a white, green. I don't know how to say this word though. Do you know this one?
Triton. It's not
Like
right.
Triton, but not.
It's not right. I know in my soul that's not right.
Yeah, something that's white green outfit. But she's sculpted to look as if she were chained to the front of the ship, young and beautiful with flowing black hair, but her expression is one of absolute terror. And that just sounds alarming.
Oh, yeah. It's like they've taken the other thing that's deeply alarming is, I mean, we can like recap Andromeda's story really quickly,
Yes.
but like it's like they've taken her at her most traumatic moment
Yes.
and frozen her there
Yes.
in perpetuity.
Yes. And what's interesting, the question I have here is, did they take a regular cruise ship, add her to the front, add the name on the side, and just like, because there's regular people on this ship who are just on a cruise, right? So did they commandeer a cruise ship and then add these Greek elements? Because mortals did not create this. Or did they make a cruise ship like magically or from scratch with all these elements and then go pick up some mortals and like put
That's a
them
good
on
question.
it? Right?
Yeah.
But I think either way, that the addition of the Greek references and Andromeda, I think, has to be a Luke, Kronos, and co decision, and still a very, even though they are trying to make us feel terror, like they are the bad guys, so it makes sense. It's a very strange decision in a way, I think.
Yeah, well, so it made me think of, and I don't know if this is what pirate ships actually did, but like
Yeah.
it reminded me of like in Pirates of the Caribbean where like the pirate ships will have like
true,
like, you know, women chained to the front or stuff like that at the front as part of like, be terrified of us. I don't know, I guess we'll do that to you. I'm not sure. It's kind of like a we'll do this to you
I think
type
so.
deal. But it made me think, which I think is why my brain never processed the cruise ship, because I was so focused on like this like Andromeda like sculpted at the front and all of that, that it evoked, I wasn't always imagining it as a pirate ship, but it evoked more of like a pirate ship scale and stuff in my mind, not like cruise ship scale.
Right, which is what I think hit me was like her on the cruise ship this time was like how big she would be. And I just I started counting red flags again because we've done that before in chapters.
Yes, we have.
And red flag number 1 is when Percy thinks to himself, why anybody would want a screaming princess on the front of their vacation ship, I had no idea. And I was like, I have an idea. Not there's bad people on this ship.
Yeah. Yeah.
This might not be friendly. No. So I just was like, a clue, a red flag. So this is our red flag number 1. We'll get to more. But then Percy remembers the myth about Andromeda and how she had been chained to a rock by her own parents as a sacrifice to a sea monster. Percy jokes that maybe she'd gotten too many F's on her report card or something. While I usually appreciate Percy's jokes, in this particular moment, I was like, I'm not ready to be joking about this. This is not it, actually.
No, especially because I did a quick refresher for myself to the world's best source on the internet, Wikipedia.
They should sponsor us at this point.
Hey, I would love that.
I think they're usually the ones asking for money, though.
Yeah. I'll ask, hey, Wikipedia, pay me to tell other people to pay you.
Hey, there you go. There you go. That's what a sponsorship is.
But I did a quick refresher on Wikipedia because I wanted the reminder of why her parents chained her, like why she had to be sacrificed. And basically her mother had like the hubris to say that kind of both the mother herself and Andromeda, but there was a little bit of discrepancy as to whether the mother was just referring to herself or herself and Andromeda, were more beautiful than the Nereids, and that made Poseidon really angry, and so he sent the monster, like he flooded the city and he sent the monster to attack. And so her father kind of prayed for like, what can we do? And their answer was sacrifice your child. And in the original myth, she's chained naked to the rock and sacrificed, though it doesn't go through because the original Perseus is the one who saves her on his way back from slaying Medusa. So there's like an interesting connection there in terms of like we met Medusa in book 1 and then we meet like who's like a part of the original Perseus' story, and then we meet Andromeda, who's another part of the original Perseus.
Also, he like kills one woman and then goes saves a different woman.
Yes.
But yeah, here it explains that that was kind of an important order of operations because he uses Medusa's head to turn the monster to stone in order to save Andromeda.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm having one of those thoughts where I don't have the full analytical thought like all the way through, but my brain was just really processing the like tradition of oftentimes men naming boats after women. And then in this instance, there's not only that, but it's gone a step further where the boat is named Princess Andromeda, and then they have like made her at the front of the boat. And just
in her most like vulnerable, scared state. Yeah. Which I think is good. Relating it to a pirate ship, I think is a good comparison.
And just the taking away of like a woman's humanity and like complexity and existence outside of like whatever a man wants her.
Yeah, it's kind of like literally objectifying you to make a boat named after you and then also put you on the boat. I think also it links back to the Medusa conversation we had in The Lightning Thief of the casual violence against women, or the normalization of violence against women, which I think having a omnipresent emblem of that on a ship is a really good example of that. And I think it's actually quite interesting because I don't feel like Kronos is particularly focused on violence against women.
No.
More so violence against like mortals and the gods and anyone kind of against him.
Yeah.
So I do think it's really interesting to have that be a key feature. Like, there's kind of two ways I was thinking you can go. You can either have like a monument to yourself on your building or your boat or whatever, or you can have something to scare your enemies. And maybe because Percy's one of his big antagonists, it's like taunting him to come try to save other people, or how do you make that make sense, right? Like, maybe that's a way to do it. But I don't try to do the meta-analysis of the author too much, but I do think that this just could be a moment where like Rick Riordan is just putting in themes like pirate ships and like themes that you see frequently in boat, literature or lore, and that it's more that's what has entered here, and not as much that it like specifically aligns with Kronos as a villain, or even Luke as a villain.
Yeah, the only case that I could make, but it's a little convoluted, is that Andromeda is a reminder of like the failure, like the fundamental problems with the gods, because like the response to a mortal saying I'm more beautiful than the Nereids, not even I'm more beautiful than like Poseidon's wife gods, or Aphrodite or whatever, was to be like, you need to sacrifice your own daughter because you said that. Like, that's maybe in a very roundabout, I do some mental
just imagine there might
way.
be a better myth to show that potentially.
Yes, but in terms of, I don't know,
not
maybe
that that's wrong,
like,
but
see her in terms of him, it maybe is more of a like persuading tool, but the way that it's described is like, it seems like a really scary thing. Like,
yeah, I think it's filling that role of scaring your enemies. Like, I do think either way that's kind of the intent and impact. I do think it's interesting that I don't see the obvious way that it ties into our particular villain. And I really want to know who chose it. Like, why and who and how this happened. Yeah. Like, because it was very intentional that it happened. The other theme that this brings up that, we don't have to dive super into, but I think is common, not just in Greek mythology, but in a lot of like religions and mythologies, is the sacrificing of children. Yes. And I think that part of that could be because, like, your child dying is like one of the worst things that can happen. And so it's like an ultimate kind of sacrifice. But I do feel like it is such a common thing for like a god figure to ask someone to do. And this is where I don't have a fully formed thought on this, but I do just have a curiosity about that popping up so many different places.
No, I agree, because it is, I do not remember from Sunday school the Bible well enough to remember who God tests by saying sacrifice your child, and I think God does it a couple of times. I feel like there's a couple of instances where that comes up, but it does feel like it's this like either it's a test, it's like the ultimate test of faith is to murder your own child, or it's like the ultimate,
it's like you did something like penance.
Yeah, like penance, or in both instances, it's the ultimate sacrifice, right? Yes. To either like prove your faith or pay for your sins in a sense. Like, I mean, sins isn't the right word for Greek mythology, but
that concept.
Yeah. So no, that is really interesting. I would love to like look into that more. I'd be fascinated to hear from like religious scholars, like on just kind of like that theme, like we know it just from our own knowledge of Greek mythology and then like Christianity, but outside of those two, like, are there other religions or faiths where that is a common theme or thread, that comes up, and why?
And when does it? Which, okay, so then going back to how this applies to Kronos, I have one more pitch for that.
Yes.
Which is that in that case, that makes me think of demigods as sacrifices, or of the demigods that will be sacrificed either in service of Kronos or kind of a threat to the children of the gods, like, I'm coming for you. Because this is, I don't think of Andromeda as a child, right? Because do you know how old she was when this happened to her?
That is not a fact I wrote down from Wikipedia.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that too, but I don't think of her as not as young as Percy, but I could be wrong, because sometimes in these like mythological stories, people are so young and you're like scared. Yeah, it's not great. I am hoping that she wasn't, but anyway, she's a child of someone, right? And that's an important part of why she gets chained for the sea monster. And so I suppose now my best pitch is that it's like, children of the gods beware, I'm coming for you, or emblematic of the sacrifices that will be made for Kronos' rise.
Yes that makes sense. And okay, and so back to the chapter, the one last real quick note is we get the little paragraph explaining that Percy's mom, the lovely Sally Jackson, named him after Perseus because the original Perseus was one of the only heroes in the Greek myths who got a happy ending. The others died, were betrayed, mauled, mutilated, poisoned, cursed, etc. And so Sally was hoping that Percy would inherit that good luck. And, spoiler alert,
right,
he gets a happy
so far
ending.
so good.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. I mean,
fingers crossed.
He's still writing books.
Hey, look, Rick Riordan is not afraid to kill a character.
Nope. Or to put characters through some things. But yes, I think that is really important to read, because it's, even though the original Perseus was a son of Zeus, so it's also an interesting choice from Sally. I think it kind of shows to her knowledge and her boldness, and she's not as present in this book as she was in the first book, so I think it's nice to like get a little bit of a call back to her. And it also made me wonder, like, did she explain this to Percy like sometime in the last year, like back to like, when did this conversation happen?
Totally.
It's kind of fun to think about.
I do think that it shows that Sally, the thing that she cares the most about is Percy and not the gods and their politics. And
absolutely,
would Zeus be mad about a child of Poseidon being named Percy? She's
not
like,
even a thought.
What I care the most about is my son and my son's well-being, and will he be okay, and what can I do?
Absolutely.
I'm going to do everything in the world I can, including even hope that his name will bring him good fortune, because I'm trying everything I can.
Yeah, we love Sally.
We do.
I think she's a great model for how to be in the world. So all of this, both our fun tangent, not so fun, fun tangent, and Percy's inner monologue tangent, are happening while we are still on the hippocampi. We're still on fish ponies, going through the water in a way Alisa can't understand yet. And Annabeth is like, how do we get on board? Yes. And the hippocampi very helpfully pull them up next to a service ladder.
Incredibly helpful.
They can climb on, because, I mean, a cruise ship is huge, so you need a way. You can't just like pop over the side, that's not going to really work.
Suction cups, Mission Impossible, scaling,
or like a grappling hook or something. Yeah, exactly. That was, as far as we know, not included in the duffel bags, so we haven't opened those yet. So Percy has Annabeth go first up, and then he goes, and then Tyson is just having the best time. Doing 360 aerials and backward ollies and laughing hysterically, which Percy's like, that's really loud for a secret mission we're doing right now, please and thank you. And then Tyson says, can't we take Rainbow? Because he has named his hippocampus Rainbow.
Of course he
has.
has.
Adorable. Rainbow likes his name, which is
obviously
really cute.
Yes.
Duh. And so Percy explains that Rainbow can't climb ladders, so that would make it hard for him to come. And Tyson sniffles and says, I will miss you, Rainbow, which is really sweet. And then the hippocampus makes a neighing sound that Percy could have sworn was crying. So, like, this bond that happened so quickly. Yeah. And, like, runs so deep already, and it's so sweet. Tyson is hoping he could play with Rainbow tomorrow, which is a challenging... Percy doesn't make any promises about that. Yeah. And they say goodbye, and Tyson also comes onto the ladder to board the Princess Andromeda. We're finally going to do the thing that we are told that we are doing in this chapter at the beginning. And this is where we get to the mystery of the cruise ship. So this is at night, and if it kind of hit me when later they say they're tired, like, this is, instead of sleeping, we're kind of doing this.
Yes.
We should be sleeping. And that got interrupted. And so Annabeth is prying open locked double doors with her knife and a fair amount of cursing in ancient Greek, which is always just funny. And Percy's thinking he's going to have to, like, be a secret spy. Dun, dun,
Tom Cruise. Mission Impossible. This is Percy's moment.
Because there's going to be so many people and they're going to have to sneak around. And Percy could not be more wrong.
By the way, if they did land on daytime, Percy would absolutely be Get Smart. Steve Carell, not Tom Cruise Mission Impossible.
Not Mission Impossible. And either way, it wouldn't matter because everybody on this cruise ship are not paying attention to them because they're somehow hypnotized out of it kind of vibes, which we'll get to.
Yes.
But they end up finding absolutely no one. Percy wonders if it's a ghost ship, and Tyson says, no, bad smell. And here I wrote red flag, a number 2.
Yep.
Now, at least for once, because, like, this brought me all the way back to the St. Louis Arch. And Grover. Same.
Yes.
And I was just like, back then, that was so frustrating that they didn't put it together. And at least here, Percy says, Cyclops are like satyrs. They can smell monsters. Isn't that right, Tyson?
Because Annabeth
at least we recognize that.
Yes, because Annabeth's response to Tyson is she goes, well, I don't smell anything. And that's to me where I was like, girl, you know about the mythological world.
Yeah.
It's so
more than
if a being
most
says it smells bad, you follow up with, like, monster bad. Do you have the ability to smell monster?
Right.
Or, like, you're smelling a fart, or you're smelling some sewage, or you know, like,
what kind of bad? Categorize it for me.
Know. But she's got her stuff with Tyson. But yes, thankfully, Percy does hop in with that info, and so we are able to have established there are monsters on board. We do not see them, but they are on board.
And Annabeth does end up asking, what exactly do you smell? It's just that her first response is not so great. But here I have a question. Okay. So, some Cyclopes would sit in the category of monster, and some wouldn't, in terms of how this book tends to portray. Like, that's part of the question as we're going through this book is, like, are Cyclopes monsters, right? That's kind of one of the ethical debates that is being had around Tyson. So here's a question. Does the fact that Tyson can smell monsters and monsters smell bad to him mean that Tyson is not a monster? Number 1. Number 2, do monsters smell bad to other monsters regardless of that?
Right.
I really need to know. I'm really curious now. Like, can they smell them? And if they smell them, do they smell bad?
Follow-up question.
Yeah.
Does bad mean, like, you smell like BO and onions bad?
Right.
Or I could see Tyson, like, is whatever the smell of a monster, a being who has hurt him, does that then equal bad smell because bad things happen. I smell that smell.
Sure.
And that means bad things on the horizon.
Either way, though, he can smell them. So, like, my point here is that I can't walk into a room and be like, there's other humans have been walking here 3 hours ago. But I also can't go into a room and be like, maybe the best I could do is go into a room and say, a farm animal was here because I smell the poop they left, right? Like, that's, I can imagine that. So the fact that, because Annabeth and Percy cannot smell this, and Grover can. And so I really just want to know if monsters can smell other monsters, and if they do, does it smell bad to them? Whatever bad means.
Yes, well, and I think that is who and who isn't a monster, and how, what does that term mean, and how is it defined, is something that is explored in a book that you have not read yet. So I'm also trying to be like, I think that is an interesting question. If we're like, based on the information that we have in this book, I think that is an interesting ethical question of like, if we go back in time to like, okay, all we had was the lightning thief and the sea of monsters, you know, like, does that mean any sort of differentiation, or is it just that basically demigods, because humans don't really have any particularly special sense of smell, demigods don't, but other beings in the mythological world,
anyone who's not a demigod,
have heightened senses in the way that dogs have heightened senses, like, and can smell and track, and we can't, in that, you know, we have to use visual cues and other things like that, because we can't like sniff out, oh, someone was here 2 hours ago.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's my question. We also learn that the mist is active again because Percy's having trouble seeing that Tyson has one eye.
Which, there was a part of me that was like, I think, Percy, you're letting it be active. I think maybe, Percy, you're a touch more comfortable with letting the mist be active around Tyson.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's always a combination. And I'm curious in future books if we have that distinction of when they leave camp. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember
when
either.
they leave camp, even when he's more comfortable, does that change or not? Yeah. But what then happens is Annabeth asks exactly, what do you smell? And Tyson just says something bad, and Annabeth is annoyed with that answer. And I just wrote, like, Grover couldn't distinguish between bad monster smells. He could just be like, smells like monsters. Like, when they're underground, he's like, underground always smells like monsters. And like, that's not helpful for identifying what's there, but it's just another example. You know, Tyson and Grover are these really interesting sort of contrasts that we get to have in terms of how Percy and Annabeth react to them in similar situations.
Yep, I agree.
So we are moving through the ship, and we're going past a pool that's glowing eerily. We're going past a putt-putt course and a revolving restaurant. So, like, that's, I think, helping us continue to get the scale of, like, what a cruise ship can be and like, how much it can hold, you know? Going through all these different levels and having these huge things that normally take up, like, blocks, you know? Kind of thing. And Percy just says he's tired. We need a hiding place and somewhere to sleep. And Annabeth is also tired.
I want to make a note that Percy senses something familiar.
He does.
Something dangerous, and he had a feeling that if he weren't so tired and burned out from adrenaline from their incredibly long night, he'd be able to put a name on it. And Percy, I believe, is sensing Kronos. Because at the end of the chapter, Luke drops and we need to return to the casket. And so I think in this moment, because Percy has been to the entrance to Tartarus and like, not just in his dreams, but had that up close, personal, as close as you can get to FaceTime with Kronos at that point, you could get with him. And so, Percy is already sensing, I think, in this moment, Kronos, but he's too wiped to. It's kind of like after the way the Lotus Casino like scrambles his brain and he can't really remember it fully. It's like he's not, you know,
he's not able to put his finger on it, which makes sense. And a lot has happened in just the last few hours. But yes, he's got that sensation. He can't put his finger on it. And he's like, we got to get some sleep. He's like, I can't even identify this feeling. So we need sleep. And they go through a few different places until they find an empty suite on the 9th level, which is all kind of set up with like cute little cruise items.
Yeah, like the doors open, stuff's ready to go, which feels kind of weird to Percy.
Also feels very Lotus Casino.
Yes, very. But I think the group is collectively too tired to worry too much about it, and they're just like, we gotta get some sleep.
We gotta get some Z's. And they do find, when they go into the suite, that Hermes is a really good packer, which makes sense because he travels a lot all the time, you know? Yeah. And he's got extra clothes, toiletry, camp rations, a Ziploc bag full of cash, a leather pouch full of gold drachmas, and he'd even managed to pack Tyson's oilcloth with his tools and metal bits, and Annabeth's cap of invisibility, which made them both feel better, which I think is just sweet. Really sweet and thoughtful.
Yeah. It is very, very sweet. And kind of before Annabeth pieces out to next door, she tells them not to eat or drink anything.
We've learned.
Yes, we learned from the Lotus Casino. We have learned, though that is a lesson we will forget.
Well, yeah, I know. I was thinking about that. Yeah,
we remember, and Annabeth, like, Percy's asking her if she thinks that the place is enchanted, and she's just basically like, I don't know, stuff's off. Let's just be extra careful.
Yep.
And Tyson crashes. It's like his little nighttime ritual is like work on this little secret project and then pass out.
And then
so that's and Annabeth is next door, crashed, and Percy is having trouble like kind of fully relaxing because he thinks he hears voices in the hallway like whispering, but they'd walked over so much of the ship and not seen anyone, but it reminded him of the underworld and the spirits and the way that they sounded. But he finally gets tired enough that he falls asleep, but proceeds to have what he calls his worst dream yet.
Do you think he's actually hearing voices in some way? Like, is this part of him being attuned to the fact that Kronos is on the ship, and then that transitions really smoothly into being in the underworld at the entrance of Tartarus?
Well, I was trying to remember because, like, Gaia gets, like, the spirits and stuff on her side. So there are, like, invisible spirits. And I was trying to remember if, like, Kronos doesn't recruit them. Like, I was trying to remember if there would be spirits of some kind.
Yeah, like on the ship.
Or if it is just the really strong energy of, like, Kronos and the casket, and that's kind of radiating and Percy's picking up on it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think either way, it felt, as someone who struggles with sleep sometimes, it felt very relatable to go from I am so tired to I have lied down and now I totally can't go to sleep anyway.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
I was like, I see you, Percy.
Yes. Been there too many a time. But we now dive into the dream portion of this chapter. Yes. And we have part 1 and part 2. So part 1 is featuring Kronos. Yes. And Percy is back at the familiar spot at the edge of an enormous pit, back at this entrance to Tartarus. And Kronos is kind of back in his, like, condescending villain with Percy, because he is basically kind of like calls him the young hero again on his way to another great victory, and even says like, don't let me stop you. Like, he's being very and basically what the blows that he decides to land are: perhaps this time when you fail, you wonder if it's worthwhile slaving for the gods. How exactly has your father shown his appreciation lately?
And I was like, Rainbow?
Like, I know, I do think it's funny.
Weird timing.
I know, like right after Poseidon.
Like you said, he didn't even sacrifice anything.
Yeah, it is very funny timing. So I'm like, that's not the right card to play.
And like
right
Hermes
now,
just gave him free gifts too. I'm like,
I know.
So far, so okay, you know?
Yeah, it didn't feel like his smartest play, like, at this point.
It's kind of like he's a broken record. It's like it works for so many demigods that it's just like his one pitch line. Like, his one and only elevator pitch is like, gods don't do enough for you, do they?
Right.
And, like, for some people, that's like, yeah, you're right. And then for other people, it's like, well, they just did a bunch of cool stuff for me. Right. You know, I got a lot of presents from them, actually, and like fish pony rides and stuff, but okay.
Because, like, at this point, he should have played the Tyson card, the do you really feel respected by, like, that is still eating away at Percy. I'm like, that's how you get under his skin right
Absolutely,
now. That's the emotional nerve that you hit, Kronos, not like...
Yeah, it's like this feels like Kronos as a titan, so removed from humans, doesn't actually, because he doesn't have empathy, right? He just has manipulation. And this feels like him not having the almost like sophistication of like using someone's actual feelings against themselves, like being able to interpret things correctly to know what's eating at them. It works best on the demigods who are already somewhat aligned with Kronos on his perspective on the gods. And it doesn't work as well when you have like different issues with the gods or like a more nuanced perspective of the gods.
Yeah, it's like reminding me of what we were talking about back earlier in the episode with Tyson and like cultural competence and humility.
Yes,
it's like a good villain like has that. Like, it makes me think of my gosh, everything is escaping me today. The villain in Rebels, he comes back in Ahsoka, blue skin, red eyes.
Yes.
His name is gone from
Thrawn? No.
Thrawn. Yes, Admiral Thrawn. Yes, thank you. He is such a great example of a villain that intentionally learns like other cultures to use them in villainous ways, to be like, I know how to get under your skin in this particular moment, and I know the button to press because I have studied all of the buttons, and I know that this is the worst one.
In Ender's Game, the concept that you have to, in order to defeat your enemy, you have to know them so well that you come to love them, which is not what villains usually are doing. Like, I don't think they have that same kind of ethical problem, but just that, like, that idea that you would understand things from their perspective so much that that you would have some kind of like affinity for them because you put yourself so much in their shoes.
Right. And I think that's like the fundamental failing of all of the, like, of Kronos, of like all of these like Titan or like gods or larger and more powerful than god forces in these books, is that they don't take humans seriously enough and respect them enough. They don't respect demigods enough, or anyone who they view as like lesser than them enough to understand them, to then be able to actually fully execute their villainy to the fullest extent and like be successful, which when you're rooting for the good guys is a good thing.
Yes.
But is like their own, it's like their own hubris is always their own fatal flaw, because they don't deem it worthy to understand demigods, to be able to know in this moment, I need to hone my message more to what is Percy most sensitive about right now.
Absolutely. And then I have a question, because we moved from that cavern to a different cave where Grover is, and Kronos is not present overtly in what we're going to see with Grover. So my question is this part of Percy's dream fluidity that we learned about in the previous book, plus his empathy link with Grover? Speaking of empathy, actually, it's kind of funny. We go from like lacking in empathy to maybe too much empathy if it means both of you die if one of you dies. But but I guess my curiosity was like, does Kronos change the dream so that Percy sees something that really alarms him? Or does Percy's Poseidon-esque fluidity in dreams change the dream plus his empathy with link with Grover? I'm curious if you have
That's
an
a great
opinion
question.
On what happened.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know. And I think when I think back to like the various times, all the times I read these books, I think I interpret it different ways each time. I think
Yeah.
sometimes it lands as Percy going, yoink, I don't want to be here anymore. And other times it
Yeah.
lands as Kronos being like, and now here be stressed about your friend,
Right, right,
like
right.
type of thing. Also, you saying, perhaps too much empathy. I was like, is an empathy link boundaryless empathy, essentially?
Well, the thing is that, like, it doesn't seem to affect how you necessarily feel about each other when you're in person.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
no.
it's more so that it allows you to connect via long distances.
Yes,
And that's,
yes.
like, how it's functioning here, too. But it is in the sense of, like, if one of you dies, the other dies.
Right, right. It is like kind of, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So we're here
quite the
with
stretch.
Grover, and he is in his bedroom prison in the Cyclops' lair, and he is at
Yeah.
a loom, and
Hmm.
he is unraveling the bridal train because he's unraveling and
Yeah.
then weaving, and so that he can like drag it out as long as possible. And this is where we get the like pun moment because the room shakes as a boulder is pushed aside after Polyphemus says honey pie, which is what he calls Grover.
Hmm.
And it says looming in the doorway was a cyclops so huge. And I was like, looming?
Oh.
Looming? Because Grover's
Yeah.
also looming.
That I think that is accidental because I think it's more so trying to emphasize
Yeah,
scale,
his
but no,
stature.
that's
Yeah.
true. That's
It's
fun.
just kind of funny. I hadn't noted
That
that
is fun.
before.
Me neither.
And we get a reminder that Polyphemus is very, very tall because he
Hmm.
makes Tyson look vertically challenged.
Yep.
And he wears a faded purple t-shirt that says World Sheep Expo 2001. And I thought that was funny. And I also want to make this shirt for the subscription box that we
Oh
want to
yeah.
make because that
Yeah.
would be fun.
Oh yeah.
And so we learned that he is at least 15 feet tall.
15 feet is very tall. I was imagining him a good like 50 feet.
Me too. Yeah,
Bare
like
minimum.
at least maybe 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in my brain, he was. Because I like the tallest basketball players can achieve over seven, are like over 7 feet
Yeah.
tall.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, if they're
Yeah, it's
all. I'm
only
like,
like a little over
like
twice
two
that
basketball
much.
players. I'm like,
Yeah.
feels like one of the
Yeah,
most infamous Cyclops, like, should be a
I
little taller than
agree.
two
I
basketball
would
players.
imagine him taller. I totally agree with that. Yes. Yes, I think I imagine him taller as well. And we learn that his enormous milky eye is scarred and webbed with cataracts. And if he
Hmm.
wasn't completely blind, then he's very close to blind.
Yeah.
And just because eyes are like so important in this series, I felt like such a
Yeah.
vivid description of an eye felt worth
Hmm.
noting. And then basically, Grover is trying to still pretend that he is a Lady Cyclops, is
Yeah.
trying to bargain to get more and more time, successfully gets 5 days in a
Yeah.
back and forth that goes 10, no, 5, okay, 7. 7, that's less than 5, right? Certainly. Oh, yes. So
Yeah.
he's doing his best.
He's
Um,
also saying that his goat-like smell is due to de chevre.
yes.
However you pronounce that in French, actually.
He's like, I
But
am definitely not actually part goat.
I do have a thought that is not
Hmm.
necessarily a fully formed thought, but this is not the second time where we've had this like length of time negotiation where Polyphemus doesn't realize that he is agreeing to more time than
Hmm.
he wants. And I just like, we were talking about like Tyson's like perceived level of intelligence via
Yeah.
Percy and like like what is Cyclops development and all of that.
Mm,
And this is a Cyclops that has been around for a long time, goes back
true.
to Odysseus, like has been
Yeah.
around the block. And so that's what I was like, I don't really have a fully formed thought, just that like I noted that
True.
and it made me, I think, want to pay attention to like as we encounter, these beings that are prescribed as monster and monstrous, like how are their levels of intelligence kind of portrayed, and just like tracking that in terms of like, there's something I do think that is always felt a touch like, I don't fully know about that.
Well, so this makes me think back to, like, it actually brings me all the way back to the question about Cyclops culture. So if I never went to school,
right,
and no one ever taught me numbers and no one ever taught me colors, I would be intelligent, but I wouldn't be knowledgeable. And so there'd be limitations to how I could use my intelligence. And so my question would be, what does Cyclops education look like? It doesn't seem like it's formalized. It seems like it's maybe passed on. And I don't get the sense that, like, that's a school
arithmetic
system.
Is,
Whereas, on the other hand, though, this is what I'm thinking, is Tyson is going to school. And Tyson, if he's developmentally 7 or 8, he's still keeping up with Percy.
Yeah.
And Percy's grade.
Yes.
And Percy's 13. And so actually that would tell us that he is equal to or more intelligent than a human, like, respectively of his developmental age.
Yes.
So to me, it actually strikes me more as like a nature versus nurture situation. And like Polyphemus didn't get any kind of education. And so numbers are confusing, especially like we're not writing anything down, like we're just talking.
Gotcha. Okay.
Versus like Tyson goes to school, so he's going to have a lot more knowledge. And so we just maybe don't know what the full capacity is of intelligence and knowledge of Cyclopes if they're not going to somewhere where they'd have education, right? Or getting that somewhere else.
That makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So in that sense, like, that wouldn't necessarily bother me as much, and it gives Grover something, like a tool to use. But he still rolls the boulder back, and so Grover is still trapped here. There's no way for him to get out, and he's closing his eyes, taking a shaky breath, and says, "Hurry, Percy, please, please, please." And so it's interesting to me that Percy says this is his, like, scariest dream yet, because I think it's like the way that I interpret that, because he has had a lot of different dreams and a lot of them have been scary, and he will have more. I actually interpret this personally as like the empathy link effect, and that it's the scariest dream yet because Grover is the scariest he's ever been, and Percy is like feeling Grover's fear, and that's making it like really visceral and real to him.
Yeah, and I interpret it as like a combo of then also Percy is getting more and more scared for Grover because he's seeing the situation get more dire and more dire, and then Grover, and so it's like both of as they're both getting more scared, and then Percy's feeling both of their fear simultaneously.
Absolutely. Yep, for sure. And then we wake up to a ship's whistle. So it's abruptly cut off, and that brings us into the final section of the chapter.
It does, and we are awoken by some guy with an Australian accent, which, if I could do one, I so would read this right now in an Australian accent, but I don't think
have either of us are going to have that.
Not in my repertoire. But the most notable thing that is said, there's a series of very standard cruise ship things like the weather and the bingo, but then we get that there's bingo in the Kraken Lounge, and that for our special guest there's disemboweling practice, and that's what kind of makes Percy go, huh, what now?
Red flag number 3.
And Annabeth is like, she like pops into their room having just woken up, and she's like, and what now? What's happening at 1 o'clock? And I kept on just like paying attention to like every time the word nobody is used, because I like know what we're going towards.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Like, it means so much more, and I don't think that it does intentionally, like, but it's fun
to track. Yeah,
it's very fun to track in this book in particular. So now that it's daytime, after they all get dressed and they venture out, they're now encountering people that they didn't at night.
Yes,
and they're experiencing very dazed, out of it, like entranced people who are walking around and tipping their hats, but no one is asking who Percy and Beth and Tyson are. No one's
including
really
the crew members, attention. Passengers and crew members. Yeah.
Yep. And what really kind of puts all of them on high alert is when they pass the cafeteria and they see their first monster, which is a hellhound, just kind of attacking the scrambled eggs at the buffet, standing next to a family who's just kind of waiting patiently to go through the buffet. And that's what really makes them all kind of go, okay.
Yeah, because before that, it's like they're passing a family and the dad's just like, we are on a cruise. We are having fun. And that's like eerie and really weird and like they're in a trance kind of vibe. But then we're like, okay, spotted, monster spotted, hellhound spotted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
getting serious.
Yes. And Tyson, who was previously quite hungry, is kind of like, I'm good. I'm not hungry anymore. Okay, I'll pass. I'll take a pass on that. Yeah. And then there's this reptilian voice that comes from the corridor, and Annabeth immediately is getting them to hide because I think she is of sound enough mind to go, okay, the humans can see us and we're okay. Monsters, we're going to set off alarm bells. We cannot be seen by monsters. And so they're hiding in the bathroom, and they hear that 6 more joined yesterday, which I think are demigods, but I wanted to ask.
Yes.
Okay, I was assuming demigods, but I was like, it could be monsters, but I feel like they'd be tracking demigods.
I think they're tracking demigods. Yeah.
And
our heroes don't know this yet. Obviously.
No, they do not. Yeah. Yes. And there's a second reptilian voice that says that he draws them and soon they will be strong. Yeah. And they continue to slither along. And this makes Annabeth, Percy, and Tyson be like in immediate agreement that they got to get off the ship now.
Yeah.
This is not a safe place to be.
Reading it again, that he draws them could mean monsters. So now I'm not sure again. I really thought it was demigods, but yeah, but he does draw the demigods too.
He does. I just wasn't sure if at this point is like, is the 6 going to be in reference to, did he get 6 demigods? Or, because, there are a lot of demigods who don't make it to Camp Kronos recruiting, and I just wasn't 100% sure.
Let us know in the comments if you think they're talking about monsters or demigods, because I feel torn again.
Yeah, or maybe a little mix of both.
It could be both.
Maybe 1 demigod and 5 monsters.
That's true.
And Annabeth and Tyson being in like such complete agreement that they got to get the hell out of Dodge right now makes Percy be like, okay, we gotta go.
Yeah.
But then we hear a third voice.
We do.
And one that chilled Percy worse than any monsters. Because it was Luke. A voice that Percy could never forget, not in a million years. And I think the key thing that Luke says here is, it'll pay off. They'll take the bait. Now we've got to get to the Admiralty Suite and check on the casket. Because there's another guy who Luke is talking to, which
Agrius.
is... Yes, named Agrius, who references, like, if this gamble doesn't pay off, and that's when Luke is like, it will, trust me. Which I believe the gamble is the fleece.
Absolutely.
Correct?
The fleece is definitely the gamble. The fleece is what they're hoping will pay off, and is the bait, right? Yeah. That's what he's talking about and referencing. And the new information we get here is that there is a casket in play, and that is very key information that will become very relevant.
Very, very. And Tyson is kind of like, leave now. Like, he's like, please. I think he knows that Percy and Annabeth have changed their minds, but he's like, please, no.
Can we still go, though? We just all agreed.
But Annabeth and Percy are now the ones in immediate agreement, and Percy tells Tyson we can't. And this is, I think, the first time we see Annabeth mad in relation to Luke. And she says, we have to find out what Luke is up to, and if possible, we're going to beat him up, bind him in chains, and drag him to Mount Olympus. Which is like, feels like I don't think it's necessarily supposed to be referenced to Andromeda, but feels
I know, I was just thinking that. Yes.
Parallel.
Andromeda-y. The chains, at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, I think... you're going along this chapter and you're like, okay, it's mysterious. Okay, there's monsters. Okay, there's dreams, you know, but then it's like Luke. And I don't think when you're first reading this book that you expect that like Luke is on the ship.
Wasn't.
That you're going to like run into him so early in the book.
Yeah.
Right? And that he's going to be on the ship. So I think it's such an effective ending to this chapter, and it makes you want to keep reading, especially when we read the title of the next chapter, which I'll do at the end here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But before that, any final thoughts or reflections?
One thing that I was curious about that I went to check before we started recording was because I made note that, like, okay, chapter 8 in this book is where the quest begins. You know, we're off
good point.
to the races.
Yes.
So I was curious what is our first The Quest Has Begun chapter in the Lightning Thief? I can't remember off the top of my head. And it was chapter 10. So it's quite close, but basically a little sooner. And I was kind of like, that makes sense. It's basically like 2 extra chapters in the first book for world building, setting up, character introduction, etc. But otherwise, at a
that'll be interesting
similar,
to look at in all the books.
Yeah,
I like that.
At a kind of similar point, like we're off and the questing has begun. Which I found very interesting. But yeah, I think my final thought is just that I think it's really brilliant to have Luke come back so early. Like,
agreed.
You know, chapter 10 is going to be like the
unexpected.
midway point, but I think earlier than expected. I think it's so smart because the last we saw of him, Luke tried to kill Percy, and we discovered that he was on Kronos' side, but we haven't heard anything from him. We don't really know why. We don't know what he's up to, what his ideal end goal is, or any of these things at this point. And we've just had these references to Percy being mad and remembering Luke and being so angry at him and all of this, that I just think it's so great to bring him in now and have that, what will be some kind of like personal be able to like hear what Luke's up to. And like, I just think that's so great because it keeps it fresh for the readers. And I think like, I think we need that check-in of like, okay, where is he at? What's he up to? What's Kronos up to? Because he's not, from our understanding, our big bad. Like, we're off to, at the end of this quest, defeat a Cyclops, not Kronos. And so, like, I think it's good to be like, hey, they're still here. They're plotting. They've got the long game.
I was going to say, I think it's good that they're both in this chapter, too. Like, it makes sense to have them both here. And I also was just thinking the other thing that's my final reflection on this chapter is I think the vibes of like, again, Percy's not the main character, Clarice's the main character with the actual quest. I think that they are maintained here because the feeling, I was just thinking when you're like, we're on a quest, I remember in The Lightning Thief writing like, we're on a quest, like when that happened, when we like left with Argus. And here, that is not the feeling I have.
No.
I have like anxiety and dread and uncertainty and confusion and it's like we're like sidling into something that's like a quest, but we don't really have a plan. And I think that is continuing, even though Percy is feeling more like the main character now that we're not at camp. I think that feeling of like, this is not the main way to do the thing. Yes. And we've accidentally come over into actually like, now it's almost like Luke is the main character. Like Percy's sort of like dropping into other people's stories in this book.
He is.
And so I was just thinking like, this is such a different feeling. It was landing with me than the feeling of we're off to a quest in The Lightning Thief, which feels a lot more like exciting, even though there's still a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And the other thing that I just realized that I wanted to add to what I said earlier was I also think the chapter after Hermes has just said, and also, hey, please rescue my son, and like, you know, don't stop believing in him. I think then in the following chapter, actually having like hearing Luke and we're not face to face interacting because hiding in the bathroom, but you know, like being like, oh,
having him show up. Yeah.
Yes. I think also for that reason, obviously, Hermes directed us to the ship knowing that Luke was on it, but like I think it's good to so immediately, like after Hermes has made it clear that he is not giving up on his son, and he wants Percy to help.
Yeah, and he's helping Percy, so Percy will help Luke. So it kind of immediately tests if like Percy's willing to do what he's just been asked to do, which is also good and interesting to do for Percy. So
which, sorry, really quickly, going back to what Kronos was saying, is he like referencing that like Percy, when he's like, aren't you tired of like slaving to the gods' wishes, is he like referencing like Hermes wanting Percy to help in this weird way? Like,
it feels like so much more generic than that to me.
I know, but I just felt like that.
But I guess it could be
the main thing. Like Percy already wanted to be on this quest. He wanted to go anyways. He's not really being forced. The only addendum that got added that he doesn't love is, hey, look out for my son and maybe try to help him. But it's funny because
which Kronos definitely didn't want to happen.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. So we will have more with Percy and Luke.
Yes.
When we read our next chapter, Sea of Monsters, Chapter 9, I have the worst family reunion ever. Bye.
Bye.